Welcome to Call Your Hits, a Storm Riders Airsoft podcast. Thanks for joining us, everyone. My guest today is a recurring friend of the show, Chris from Nomad Airsoft. Chris recently held an airsoft operation called Operation Villa Verde. This was held September 14th and 15th at HTK Airsoft in Lugatti, Indiana. So this is an event that Chris actually designed and wrote and actually played in. We had a bit of a chance to talk about it while he was here over the summer designing and running Operation Last Silent Resolve with me and the rest of the team. But this event is really unique, and I'm really glad to get a chance to talk to Chris about it. From the field setup and like the size of the field and the way the game is set up, I think it's going to be really interesting. And I'm really curious to get like his thoughts on also like designing an airsoft game, but also taking part in the same airsoft game that you're actually running. So Chris, man, welcome back to the show, homie. How's it going?
It's going. Thanks for having me again. Always fun to come on and hang out with you, and got to hang out with you in person. That was fun.
Yeah, and we'll do it again next year. But
Definitely.
no spoilers about that. Listen, so let's talk a little bit about this event that you are running. So it's a milsim event, like objective based, etc. And one of the things that stuck out, like when you and I were talking about it, it's that it's not just a sort of like green versus tan type of situation. And it's also, I think, from what you were saying, like it's not a shoot first kind of event. So do you want to talk a little bit about the setup and sort of what that means?
Yeah. So essentially, the way it broke down was there were four different teams. Um, Two of them were handpicked by the field. It's so weird to say the field owner, but my buddy Harrison, who is the field owner, even though he's 20 years old. Um, but he handpicked the federal police force, and then I handpicked Regatta Industries, which was the team that I ran and played on and headed up. And the reason we did that was because they weren't necessarily the main teams, um, but they were teams that played a crucial role for the other teams as far as objective wise. So we needed a larger force than the police force, because the police was only like 5 or 6 people.
Mm-hmm.
And then we needed a larger force that had their own objectives that were just there on the map that could sway the outcome of the game. And that was the whole point of why I handpicked the teams, because I basically handpicked it with just heavy hitters that I knew if we were going to get into any type of engagement, we were going to come out on top and win, which ultimately it did happen. Not many people could go against us. And there's another reason for it too, other than just the skill level.
Mm-hmm.
It was a fact that because I knew there were four teams, and this event is based off of one that I actually played in at Ballahack in June with the rest of the Nomad boys, with Jimmy and Grayson. And it was based off their Red River series, where you have multiple different teams and there's a bunch of things going on, and it's less of a shooting one and more of a role play.
Mm-hmm.
With mine, though, it wasn't as structured. It was more free-flowing role play. Each team had objectives. Each team had 5 objectives, and I gave the 2 commanders of the green team, which was the Rebels,
Mm-hmm.
the People's Republic of Villa Crest. Villa Crest was like the fake country that I came up with.
Mm-hmm.
And then there was the cartel, which was the tan side, which I'm trying to remember the name of the actual cartel. I named it the Villa Roja cartel. So I basically went to their commanders and gave them 5 objectives and was like, these are your 5 objectives. It's up to you how you want to accomplish them. I'm not here to force you or show you or tell you how to do anything. This is your team. This is your game. Like, have at it. And then my team had its own objectives, which I came up with. However, I let Harrison put all my objectives on the field. I didn't do that because I was like, I can't go out and just like dig my bricks of lanthanum into the field and know exactly where they are. I actually
Mhm.
wanted to have like game time play too. So the way we got the props were we went and had I had a spray paint party in his front yard where it was just bricks, and I spray painted them like a grayish green, mainly gray for the lanthanum, which that's an actual like rare earth metal. I don't know if you know,
Mhm.
it's like the stuff that's like in our cell phones and everything. Um, and then I spray painted bricks silver and then bricks gold. The cartel was trying to get gold, the rebels were trying to get silver, and then I I took Ziploc bags and filled them halfway with flour,
Mhm.
folded it over, and duct taped it in a cross to look like just bricks of cocaine.
Yep.
And that was part of the prop for the cartel was they had to grab it. They had to like establish a drug smuggling route. They had to keep their drug lab operational. Um, and then there was a governor. So that was the big thing was that the governor was on the side of the police force. And the police force is basically going around and doing what the police force does, arresting people, keep putting people in jail for X amount of time based on their crimes, whether it was drug smuggling, stealing, murder for, hitting somebody with a BB.
Yep.
And they get in jail for like X amount of times. It was literally, they had to go sit in the corner of like the jail that we made it for like a certain amount of time. So that was really funny. Um, but the whole point was basically the objective of the game was the current governor was trying to keep power through trying to bring everybody together under like him as
Mhm.
far as like using the police force to kind of be like forceful. The cartel had to elect one of their guys to be a government candidate for governor, and the PRV had to have one of their guys be a candidate as well. And so to start off the game, the current governor, gave a speech about being a community and being together and like we need to stop this fighting and everything like that. And that was one of our buddies that's like one of the refs that is always there. We made him the governor.
Mhm.
Um, and so that kicked off the game, but then it started. Everybody kind of went back, and then there were objectives everybody had to complete. What basically ended up happening was green and tan just started fighting each other right off the bat. Like everybody went out and grabbed like their silver and gold bricks, as many as they could, and they went and they fought each other. We also implemented a black market that would open up for an hour and a half, 2 segments. And that is where you could buy like mortar tubes. You could buy, um, anything that he really had. You could trade stuff too. So you could trade like cocaine or bricks and everything. And everything was worth a certain amount of points, and they were all different.
Mhm.
The silver and gold bricks are worth the same points, just logistical purposes. I had to make it that way.
Yeah. Yeah.
But then everybody had their own currency. So the cartel and the rebels had gold coins that were pesos, and then I had fake 100 American dollar bills that were like in stacks of 10 grand. And it was just ridiculous because my currency was worth way more than theirs, making it like a real life thing where American dollars are worth way more than pesos.
Mhm.
And so I was basically able to go around and my team had the objective of I had to go buy land, and then I had to mine land, and then I had to export the land that I'm out. So initially off the bat, I started and I just kind of walked around the entire field, talking to the commanders, talking to the cartel, talking to the rebels, and just kind of seeing like, hey, like what do we need from us? This is what we're here to do. We're not here to take over your government, nothing like that. Um, and I would give gifts of goodwill, which was just stacks of fake $100 bills, which
Mhm.
was worth points at the end of the game. Um, and so the way I did it was I wanted my guys to be all together. I wanted us all to move as a unit. There was only 13 of us, and there was probably 40 to 50 of players on each team on the cartel and on PRV. So each side probably had about 40.
So you had about like
And
what, like 100 players at this event total?
yeah, about that, about 80 to
Cool.
100. Um, and so like we had 13. And I was like, we're not going at this in onesies and twosies. I was like, we're all going to go together the entire time and move as one because we are less likely to get into engagements doing that.
Hmm.
Because we were the foreign people nobody actually wanted there. And so we started at 10 in the morning and it went all the way to 10 at night on Saturday. And
So
then Sunday we went from 10 to like 2.
So thinking about the players at this event, did you have like mostly like beginner players, or was it a mix of beginners and experienced players, or mostly experienced players? Like, what was that setup like in terms of the experience levels?
No, it was a mix. The most experienced players were the ones that I stole for my team,
Hmm.
that I handpicked because I knew it's another team that's out here, and I grabbed the majority of their guys, and then my buddy coach who I play hockey with, who's one of the prospects for our Nomad team. He was actually my second in command, and then Luke, the guy who runs Trident, the team out here, he was my team sergeant.
Gotcha.
So I
And
ran it as like an SF ODA just because there was only 13 of us.
gotcha.
Figured easiest to do it.
And then with the other teams, like, because I want to come back to what we were saying at the beginning, like, obviously, like, this was a, like, not a shoot first event, although it sounds like you were saying green and red at 10 started shooting at each other basically right out the gate. But did you find that players were able and willing to lean into the role playing aspect more so than, like, just blasting you the second you showed up?
Oh, absolutely. People actually came up with their own characters themselves in game, and it was great. Some of them were like this one guy. Oh my gosh, he was the most annoying person out there on the field, and that's what he played purposely. He was basically just kind of like always wandering in our territory and like trying to talk to us, and like he was a sniper, so he'd randomly just take pop shots at us and then be gone and then come back. We called him his nickname became after 40 minutes of him doing this and he kept doing it, we nicknamed him Butter Sausage. And so every time you'd hear over the radio like Butter Sausage is coming back to our camp, and I'd be like, get him out of our camp, kick him out. At this point, like it came down to where he was so annoying to where we basically gave shoot on sight orders for him if he came anywhere near our camp because he was just so annoying.
Mm-hmm.
So it was really fun to like see that. And I talked to players like during the game, like if I was talking to them and stuff like that, I'd be like, all right, out of game, like how is this going? What do you guys think? Because I was my first time doing something like that. Everybody loved it. Everybody wants to do it again next year. I think we are going to do it again next year. We're going to do it on the bigger field next year. But everybody seemed to love it, and everybody really got into the role play aspect of like, you know, taking stuff, trying to make deals. People were making backdoor deals with other teams and like being like spies and stuff for their own team that they paid for,
Mm-hmm.
which was really funny to hear. So the cartel had a couple spies that were cartel to start. The PRV basically like made them into spies, and they ended up blowing up the drug lab and losing them all those points. And I know the cartel commander, and he was pissed because that's actually what lost them the game, was not having the functional drug lab at the end. The PRV was getting smoked the entire weekend. They had
Mm-hmm.
less numbers than the cartel, and like they were getting kind of smoked. And then basically the police force came into it, and then we all just started to fight the police force just because they wanted to have action. And like I knew because the police force was going and like taking cartels like cocaine and bricks and like money and stuff like that. They were taking it when they were conducting their raids. And so like I needed to get my guys into the fight because we were basically just walking around all day like we had to go look for dig sites for lanthanum, and we had to have like shovels, and we literally had to sit there and dig down into the dirt to like get the bricks, which was super fun. Like they all loved it. And so I was like, all right, you guys want to go do something fun and get into a firefight? They're like, yes. I was like, all right, cool. We're going to go raid the police station. And so,
So
yeah, go ahead.
yeah, no, I was so like before you get into like the glory of raiding the police station and stuff. One of the things I wanted to ask you just to back up is the thing that you said. Okay, well, I talked to the different like team faction leaders. Well, I mean, aside from yourself, right? But like you basically said, these are the objectives for your day. I'm not going to micromanage you. I'm not going to tell you how to do it. Just like this is what you need to do. Just go ahead and do it. So two questions. Number one, um, in addition to that, did you do any fragos or anything like that? And number two, like how did they respond to that? Because that can be a pretty tall order for some people to be like, okay, wait, hang on, you're just telling me what to do and then letting me fly of my own wings. Like I don't necessarily know how to respond to that. So how did they take it? And then like, did you do fragos and throw other stuff at them?
No, so I didn't really do fragos for the other teams. They kind of just happened naturally just because of the way it was, as far as the way I designed the objectives, where they were always going to have conflict with each other unless they worked some deal out and worked out like truces and everything, which that happened. They worked out like ceasefires and peace talks and stuff like that. And then someone would betray someone, and then we'd have to get involved and all of that. But basically, the way I designed it was that there didn't need to be fragos because there was already going to be so much chaos inherently with the objectives that were on the field.
Okay.
Yeah. And so, like, my objectives were kind of completely separate, and they didn't really involve the other teams. Like, the other teams didn't have to deal with us technically, unless they wanted to contract us out to help them in a fight and help them, you know, take stuff from the other team.
Right.
Which the first thing I had like a truce pack with the cartel to start, um, where it was basically just like, don't go near his house, which was the respawn, and then don't go near his church, which was the drug lab.
Gotcha.
That was the only thing. He's like, as long as you guys aren't hostile towards my guys, we won't be hostile towards you. Obviously, some guys were, and it happened, and everything like that. And then, like, the PRV was less. The rebels were less cordial with me. They were more just like, they were more just trying to get stuff out of us, like
Like
money
money.
and
Yeah.
like going to attack the cartel and everything like that. Um, so it was very interesting to kind of see, like, because I was ready with some fragos of things, but I never needed to. It just flowed the way it flowed, and like there were constant fights, and it was like it wasn't constant like big fights. It'd be like there'd be a lull, and then all of a sudden something would kick off, and it would be more intense because you weren't doing anything for like 40 minutes, and all of a sudden you're just getting into this giant fight, and like I think everybody
Mm.
really loved that. And having the police force there, I think, helped to make a different kind of enemy in a sense.
Because they were really only the enemy of the cartel, right?
Yeah, they would arrest rebels and stuff too for committing crimes, but most of the time when they did their like raids or anything, it would be against the cartel trying to, because the police had objectives as well, but their objectives didn't really count for points. But it was basically just like, hey, like you guys need to like raid the drug lab and everything like that. And so
Mm-hmm.
the funny part about that was they didn't even raid the cartel drug lab. I did, because we were aligned initially with the police. Our objective was to keep the current governor in power because he was allowing us to be down there and purchase land and set up our mines. And so I aligned myself obviously with the police, but I also aligned myself right off the bat with the cartel pretty heavily. And then the police gave me a warrant to go raid their drug lab. What I did was I went to the cartel commander first and let him know, hey, we're going to be coming in here to raid your drug lab. I need you to leave like 2 bags of cocaine so I can give the police something. And that's it. And then I'll be out of your hair. And so he was like, all right, I got you. I also gave him $10,000 to do it too. So
Right.
I gave him 10 grand. he basically, we did a whole big thing where I yelled, held up a warrant, and was like, show of force. We went in, we raided, we grabbed 2 bags of cocaine. I only gave one back to the police. I kept one for myself, and I went and used it to trade to get a mortar. Right off the bat, when the black market opened, I bought 2 mortar tubes because I wanted to have those. And then what ended up happening was, I think the PRV had them, and then the cartel had them, had like 1 and 1. No, they didn't. They only had, somebody bought one. I think the PRV bought one. So there was still a mortar tube left when the black market came online the second time, which I ended up buying. So I had 3 mortars. Again, though, the funny part is the black market was, it was a guy on my team who bought to play for my team. But what he does is usually almost every weekend he goes to the field and he has, I don't think I've ever seen a singular person have this much airsoft gear in my life. And he goes and does trades and sells and stuff like that. Like I bought a replica off of him a couple months ago. That's really cool. It's an AR AK.
Oh
So
yeah, you
it's
mentioned that. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
so it's like an AR that but it takes AK banana mag, so it's like an AR that shoots 7.62. So it's really cool. I haven't used it yet. I just put like a new barrel and stuff in it, so I got to try it. But basically, he does that, and so we were like, he would be great to just run the black market for an hour and a half, and like
VR dealer.
yeah, and like he's dealing with a wrist injury too, so like he can't hold a rifle for that long. So it gave him a break to do it, and it was great. And he would ask me questions like, what do I do about prices? I'm like, dude, you set your own prices. He goes, really? I'm like, you can make things as expensive as you want them. And he ran with it. I think I had to give him like 30 grand for 1 mortar tube.
Yeah.
So like he did not favor any team. Like it was run perfectly.
So just out of curiosity, like what did the mortar do and like how did you make it work? Just from a gameplay standpoint.
It was a legitimate mortar. As far as like, I just built the tube out of like PVC pipe, and we ran it as each mortar had 3 shots.
Mm-hmm.
And you could use all 3 shots at once. You could use 1 shot, 2 shot, whatever you wanted. But basically, Harrison was like Overwatch. So he was like game admin, game commander. Like he would just basically be like, I'd call him on the radio and basically be like, I'd set up the mortar tube, and what it was the distance that it could shoot was the mortar had to be placed at least halfway on the field to shoot. Like you couldn't shoot from one end of the field to the other end of the field. Yeah. You had to go place it halfway to hit the other end. You had to go there, set it up. It had to be set up at a clear area around it. It couldn't be like in the woods and do it. No, it had to be like a clear area. And you basically told them like, I want to hit this. And you just tell him, because the field is pretty like, if you tell him where you want to hit on the field, we can figure out where it's going to get hit.
Mm-hmm.
And then the admins, the refs that were driving around would just drive around in the golf cart and say, hey, everybody in this area, you're dead. And that was a like dead where it was like, you got to do your 3-minute bleed out, and then you walk back to spawn. Like you're done.
Yeah. And did you use any pyro or anything to signal it, or just using game? Yeah.
No, just game mechanics for that. People had pyro, like we had grenades and stuff like that. But I guess Harrison didn't get the shipment in time for the game stuff. So like we were really running low on like smokes and EGs.
Gotcha.
So he couldn't do it. Yeah. Normally it'd be like, something happened with the order, like, because normally that's what it would be. Is usually they have like a firework or like smoke or something like that symbolizes it, but it
not this. Yeah. So next time, and I'm just curious too, like, how did you find sort of managing both like playing and like running admin from a standpoint of like, how do you create an event where it feels like you can still kind of be surprised as a player, but also it doesn't feel like the players are looking at you going like, well, obviously those guys are rolling because the guy who's running that team is organized the game, so he knows everything about it. Like, how did you balance that?
So people would ask me questions about that stuff, and I was like, I have no idea. I was like, I gave you guys I only laid out the objectives. I was like, Harrison has gone and planted all of my objectives. Harrison and I went and planted like the bricks for you guys, but like we did that yesterday, so I'm not going to remember where they are. One, and then 2 was like, I was like, I told them, I was like, my team can't really win. They're like, what do you mean? I'm like, yeah, we get points, but we can't win as a team. Like, it's
Hmm.
only the winning is only going to be between like your two teams. And I was like, and you guys can contract me out too to like do stuff for you. Like, you can come and like try to pay me to do stuff, like go fight another team or anything like that. And so guys would come up and ask, like, hey, do you know where everything is? I'm like, I have no idea.
Hmm.
And they're like, really? I'm like, no, I really don't know. I didn't place any of this stuff down. And it was good. I'm like, and half the objectives that like you guys have, I gave you before the game. So like there was no true like on field objectives. And it was good to have me on the field because like there were questions and stuff that like came up and Harrison would call I run dual comms. So I had Harrison in on one ear and then the rest of my team on my other ear.
Hmm.
And so like that was really the like admin comm. So Harrison could talk to me and like he would have people had questions. He could could be like, hey Chris, like what do you want to do about this? And I would think about it, and I would basically tell him what I wanted.
Gotcha.
But it wasn't difficult just because the way the game was set up was it was so simplistically written and set up at the start as far as what an admin would need to do. There was no simplicity to the game whatsoever because there were four different teams and you had to deal with a bunch of different objectives.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
like,
for sure.
no, from an admin standpoint, it was very easy just because it was, hey, this is your team's objectives. This is your team's objectives. Do with it what you will. Here, like you guys have the rules. We read the rules out. These are the rules. Other than that, it's free reign for you guys.
So when you looked at like the players, especially like the two like main factions, less the police and the I guess regatta industries, but the
Yeah,
other guys, PRV and the cartel.
cartel.
As an organizer, and I guess as a player, but mostly as an organizer, what did they do that really surprised you that you didn't really expect was gonna happen?
The big thing was that at one point they all knew our objectives didn't really matter,
Okay.
like my team's objectives. And at one point they stopped fighting each other, and all of a sudden we're just trying to take away my lanthanum because we basically had to export the lanthanum and hold it at our office to extract it out of the country. We had to hold it there for like 20 minutes.
Hmm.
And as soon as we did that, Harrison let the other teams know, like, hey, they're extracting a supply of lanthanum right now, like it's 20 minutes. And I was like, okay, we'll get into defensive positions. I don't think anything's going to happen. All of a sudden, the PRV hit us from the bottom side of the hill, and we saw the cartel coming from the top side. And I started firing rounds towards their commander and was like, don't do it. Don't do it. I was like, don't you fight us too. And then all of a sudden they like started to come, and then I grabbed two of our mortars, and then the cartel backed off, and the
Hmm.
PRV just kept coming because I didn't know the PRV had a mortar. And so what I did was I spread my guys out really as far as like in the horseshoe to like only three people got killed when the mortar hit our area. And as soon as they did that, you hear me just yell in the field. I was like, really? You want to go that way? And so I grabbed my mortar. I set it up right after their mortar hit. And I called Harrison. I was like, Harrison, I'm launching a mortar at the hayloft. Time now. And he goes, okay. So they were all getting ready to push for an attack. And I think I mortared probably 10 of them
Hmm.
to where their attack just fizzled completely. And it's like, that was what I wanted to do as far as be that team that had the firepower. Think of like a foreign, PMC team coming down, an American PMC company coming down. Like they're going to have lots of firepower. They're going to have lots of assets that they can bring in country and they can use if you try to fight them.
Yeah.
Versus your rebels that are basically very poor and you're just trying to fight for like the freedom of your country. So that was kind of the dynamic I wanted for that, and it worked out really well. Um, Going that way. But it's like after that happens, I was down there making a deal with the PRV commander, to like stop attacking us, and like I just wanted to buy land off of him, and like I paid him money to do it, and like then he's like, well, can you get us some other stuff? And I was like, okay. So I would go and like try to, you know, get silver bricks for them, or even get gold bricks for them, and to hold like for the cartel, um, as far as points.
Yeah, that's one thing I've noticed about like airsoft events with roleplay, because we see it at like our events as well. It's this like almost like whiplash of like you're like aggressively fighting all like each other in like one instance, and then 5 minutes later it's like, all right, no, we're friends now, and like we're willing to talk and stuff in a way that kind of I guess is not what you would see in real life exactly. I don't think you would see sort of like these guys attacking a rebel or like a PMC faction, and 5 minutes later they're striking a deal to be like, okay, cool, you know what, we'll chill out, you pay us some money, everything is good. Like
Yeah.
that really only happens in airsoft, but it's always it definitely gives you pause sometimes. You're like, really, guys? Like, weren't we just fighting like 5 minutes ago, and now this is happening? But I mean, at the same time, we understand it's a game, so you kind of have to be like, okay, well, especially for your faction, which, as you were saying, is more like a not a disruptor faction, but sort of like almost like a balancer kind of way. Like,
Yes.
you don't want to be like, no, you attacked me one time, and now I'm gonna make your life hell for the next like 12 hours. Like, it makes it doesn't make a lot of sense to
Yeah, and
to look at it that way.
that's what I didn't want to happen, as far as like one faction, like the rebels getting like completely hit and constantly fought and overrun by the cartel. That's why I was there. And I knew my team was the only my team was the only team to have like four guys with nods. So when the night portion hit, I knew we were going to be able to balance scales a lot easier,
Mm-hmm.
just because of the fact of like we could see. And like it happened. The police force ended up leaving, and we weren't able to raid the police station during the day. I stupidly gave the police unlimited respawns in their police station because there was only six of them.
Yeah.
During the day, it worked out great. They had like if they were in there, they didn't have bleed outs, and they were all speed softers that were on the police force. It was Harrison's like team, so they're all speed softers. So we're all it was us and the cartel together fighting the police force, just trying to like shoot and like drop them, and we would do it. But the problem was we would hit them, then they'd come right back in from their police station, and then we'd have to wait and have a bleed out. And so it happened like they just got hammered. Like we just got hammered so many times. Like it was brutal. And so during that, I changed the rules with Harrison, and I was like, hey, like we need to give the police force like a bleed out, because our guys are getting mad that we can't do anything. And I was like, there's other guys. I was like, we got. He goes, yeah, I just talked to Kate, his sister, about it. He's like, I just talked to, or no, it was Micah who the police. He's like, I just talked to Micah about it. He's like, yeah, we're gonna do a bleed out for the police, normal bleed out like you guys have. That way you could actually like have guys go in there and like you're not just wasting stuff. So it worked out. But they hid their seized assets so well, we didn't find them.
Oh wow.
We didn't find them until the nighttime, and we like ripped our camp apart. What they did was, it was like the big like industrial like water containers that are like in like metal.
Yeah. Yep.
That's mainly what the field is kind of built out of. There are wood buildings all over as well, but like that was what we built the police station out of, because we basically built the police station in a rectangle with like a small room for like a jail. And what they were doing is they were taking the bricks, the gold and silver bricks, and the cocaine, and putting it underneath the metal water containers on the bottom. It was impossible to find unless you're like really like on the ground, like head to the ground, like,
Yeah,
oh
yeah,
yeah, I
yeah.
see it, like reaching your whole arm in there to grab it. So, I mean,
Wow.
they were smart in doing it. So I got that information that at nighttime, me and like my four guys with nods went in there and grabbed all the stuff. And before like that like the changing light periods,
Yep.
where a lot of people, it's like dinner time, a lot of people don't actually go out and airsoft and stuff. And so I asked Harrison for like a count of stuff and like who had stuff, and I went to the cartel and the PRV and kind of figured out what everybody had. Because my whole thing was at the nighttime, I was going to swap everything around. So I was going to go and give all the silver bricks to the cartel and all the gold bricks to the PRV because they didn't need them. That was the opposite way.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was going to go take all the cocaine and distribute it all over the field.
As admin or a disturber?
No, as a disturber, as
Okay, okay,
Regatta
okay.
Industries, I was
Yeah.
going to go do that. No, because it was admin, I would have just done that. But what I found out was the police aligned with the PRV and they did that themselves. But instead of swapping it, they just took everything from the cartel and brought it all to the PRV, and the PRV stashed it in like a hideout.
So they
Like
had everything.
in the woods behind their fob. They had a ton of stuff. The cartel came out at the night portion and was just pissed. The problem was the PRV guys had all bounced. There was one PRV guy left.
Oh, like they had like left the field, I guess, for the night.
Yes,
Okay, wow.
for like to go to sleep, and then they were going to come back the next day. So there's one PRV guy left, and he was just like, "I'm going to stay here all night and defend this." Like the cartel was furious, and they had like 12 to 15 guys still playing at night,
Mm-hmm.
all like white lights and going at it and stuff. And so me and my nods guys went into the woods, and like I got hit, and I was like, "Oh!" Like hit. I was like, he goes, "Who are you?" I was like, "I'm the Regatta commander." I was like, "I was looking for you guys," and he goes, "Oh, okay." I was just being careful. He like medic me, and I talked to him. I was like, "You guys have all everything, right?" And he's like, I was like, "Dude," I was like, "I know you guys have everything." I was like, "I'm not here to take it or anything like that." I was like, "You're gonna stay and defend." He goes, "Yeah, I'm gonna try to defend." So I was like, "All right, I'm gonna go see what I can get from the police station and see what's going on." And so I left, and then like we ran into all the cartel guys like on the road, like yelling, screaming, pissed, like somebody told us, like took all of our stuff, like legitimately like a cartel would be like in game.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, "Yeah, I have no idea where it is." Like I knew, but I was like, "I have no idea where it is. Like I'm not sure. Like I can't help you on this one." I was like, "I have my own stuff I gotta do." I was like, "I gotta go like raid the police station and everything." And he's like, "Well, we're gonna do that." And I was like, no. I was like, "Don't you guys want your stuff back?" And he's like, "We're gonna get our stuff, then we're gonna go raid the police station like with you." I was like, "All right, I just want my stuff back from the police station." I didn't. I wanted
Right.
everything. So all of a sudden we left towards the police station, and we just hear just this. There was the PRV guy had it was one of their LMG gunners, and we just hear this massive firefight kick off into the woods by their spawn, and it's like there's yelling and screaming from the cartel, just a bunch of LMG fire, and unfortunately the PRV guy couldn't hold out because it was one dude,
Yeah.
but like he dropped a few of them. The cartel ended up getting all of their stuff back, but while they were doing that, I went and grabbed everything from the police station, brought it back to my office. Once the cartel left, I then went and stashed it and hid it in PRV's spawn, so they had some stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So that was kind of how it was at the night portion that it ended. So it ended with the cartel getting all their stuff back, and then me giving the PRV a bunch of stuff that we had taken throughout the day and stuff that I raided for the police station, just to kind of keep them in the game. Like I didn't want them to get discouraged. So the next day, we went out to the field. I beelined it right to the PRV commander. I was like, "Hey, I hid a bunch of stuff here for you guys last night. Like the cartel took all your stuff. I know that, and so I hid a bunch of stuff for you guys. Like I want to stop the fighting between us and everything." And then at 12 o'clock, we had elections, legitimate elections. Like each candidate had to give a speech. I made people give speeches and everything like that. And so the current governor gave a speech. The cartel second in command was their nominee, and he gave a speech. And then the PRV had like a little like the kid had to be like 13 maybe.
Oh my
He was
god.
there. He was their nominee, so it was great. He gave a speech and everything, and it was basically just it was based on cheers. The cartel won, So they are now the government in power of like a puppet government.
How many people showed up for the second day, by the way? Because I know typically on the second day fewer people come out. If you
Yeah,
had
they're
100 on the first day, how many did you have on the second day?
probably like 40.
Oh
Well,
wow.
not including my guys.
So like about half,
Probably like 50,
basically.
yeah,
Yeah.
which is pretty standard as
Unfortunately,
far
yeah.
as like attrition goes. Um, but I mean, it worked out, and I don't know how it happened, but the PRV ended up winning.
Okay. So the cartel won the election.
The cartel won the election. Each of them got 4 out of their 5 objectives done.
Okay.
So they were tied on objectives. Then it came down to all the little small stuff. The cartel had way more bricks and cocaine than the PRV. The PRV ended up having, I want to say, money. Money was the big thing that put them over the top. And it was only like they won by like maybe 100 points. It was nothing. Like it was ridiculously close. Um, but basically, like
You mentioned earlier that the cartel had lost their drug lab, which was one of the big reasons that they
that,
were
yes.
behind on points, right?
So what happened was, I guess there were guys that were on the cartel and would attack us, attack the cartel, kind of attack the PRV, and these were cartel guys. And it was just like, what are these guys doing? And in game, it was like they were paid by PRV to go do this and sabotage the cartel. So they went in and blew up the drug lab. So the PRV did not have or the cartel did not have a drug lab anymore, and that's what really screwed it up
So
because
how
that didn't get them their 5th objective. They would have had all 5.
yeah, I mean that's a bummer, but that's how she goes, as we say,
Yeah.
right? Like sometimes that's the way it is. But overall, like I mean, pretty close game. Feedback seems to be pretty positive from the players. Seems like you had a good time. My question would be like, so you're gonna do this again, like by the sounds of it, like this with the players.
Yeah.
What lessons are you drawing from this one that you're gonna apply on the next one? What are you gonna do differently next time for an event like
So
this?
yeah, so I've already started writing it for next, and I'm cool sharing what I have so far because it's still obviously a work in progress, and we're gonna do it in October. We're gonna do it in like a year anyway, so I'll
Mm-hmm.
have time to like tweak it. And I want to kind of get guys like we want to promote it really far out in advance. And I've talked to I don't know if you know names Nico. He's a airsoft YouTuber out of UK. He's former
Uh,
British Army, and he and I like I've talked to him before and stuff like that. And I asked him, I was like, "Would you even want to come out for this?" He goes, "Yeah, it seems cool." And so I might try to get him out for it because he just comes and plays. Like he's not like one of the typical ones like they they know Navrich though, like the field owners, and like they
okay.
buy their stuff. I guess to get Navrich to make an appearance anywhere, it's like 100 grand.
Wow.
Yeah, and they were like, okay, we're not gonna do that. They've had Airsoft Alphonse out there a few times on the field, and just like didn't really get the content that they wanted. I'm like, yeah, like, you're choosing the wrong like airsoft influencers here. Like you want to just have a guy that goes and plays with like a GoPro on his helmet, and like that's the footage you want of him just playing.
Hmm.
So regardless, I'm going to try to talk to Nico and see if I can get him out and use the whole military side of things as far as like me and him and like Jimmy and stuff. Um,
In terms of the gameplay, though, like what you
yeah,
organized and like what you
what's
did for the game, like what's something that
it's
you
going to
think you can do
change.
better next time?
It's going to change slightly to where there's going to be more firefights that are happening because I'm basically it's going to be a continuation of it to where next time it's going to be like we're like it's only going to be 3 factions. Regatta is going to be larger because they will have already set up their 5 mining sites
Hmm.
and they need security to maintain the mines. The cartel is going to be in charge of the government. but they're going to start getting pissed off at Regatta that they're not getting as much money as they thought they were going to get from kickbacks. So they're going to want to fight Regatta. The police force has now disbanded and blended into the PRV. So the PRV is now going to want to kick the cartel out of the country and disband them, while also trying to kick us out as Regatta for being foreign people. Which one they want to do first is up to them, but basically it's going to be a giant triangle of fighting, where Regatta is mainly going to be on the defensive side. The interesting thing, which I can plan for, is I'm planning to do it on the other side of his property, which is like 120 acres. It's massive. And I want to put 5 mining sites all over the place where Regatta is going to be spread thin, kind of like a legitimate, operation. So to preface all this, I completely stole this kind of like gameplay. I made it my own, but I basically took it from Ghost Recon Wildlands. So you think of like Regatta as like Unidad. I don't know if you've played the video game, but like Regatta is Unidad.
But yeah.
So like Regatta is like Unidad, the cartel is the cartel, and like the rebels is like the rebels. Like it's loosely taken from that. And obviously I've made my own tweaks of it. And people on the field knew. It was really funny. They came up and they were like, this is fairly similar. I was like, for like to Ghost Recon. They're like, yes. I'm like, oh yeah, that's where I pretty much got it from. They're
no,
like,
I've never heard of the game.
Yeah. They're like, did you follow it exactly? I'm like, no. I made my own tweaks and like I wrote it myself. Like all of it's different. But like that's kind of what I want to do, is have each of these mining sites be spread out into like different like regions. And their terrain out there is so crazily different all over their field. There you got like hills in one point, you got like rivers in another. It's nuts how big it is. So have these different mining sections like all over the place. And then over the course of the next year, we want to go in and instead of doing like buildings and everything, do it kind of like Ukraine style, where we're going in there and like digging trenches, building emplacements, getting like cami nets from like surplus stores out here and just like making cami net buildings and stuff like that instead of like legitimate like wood buildings and everything. And so essentially that's kind of what I want to have. I got to figure out the objectives for the team. It's not going to be as many, and this is going to be more of it's going to be weird because it's going to be more of a force on force, but not a force on force because there's not 2 teams. There's 3 teams that are going to be, you got to figure out how you're going to fight each other, who you're going to fight first. If you are going to fight everybody, it's going to be a lot more detailed than just tan side, green side, fight each other, go.
Yeah.
And what I want to do is, I actually stole it from the game we came up with from Silent Resolve, was how we had the 5 different sites. That's kind of what I'm going to do for the mining sites. Is it's going to be 5 different sites placed all over the place, and like there's going to have to be patrols that go out there and check on the sites. There's going to have to be like site defense where it's like, hey, the cartel's out here placing explosives on our mine. That's going to be one of their objectives. So they need to blow up the mines, and there's going to have to be a way to do it as far as like going and planting explosives on the mine. And it's going to be 2 parts. It's going to be like we did, how it was, you called up to download the information.
Yeah.
And then you called up to upload it. It's going to be, hey, this is your X amount of time to plant a bomb. And then you have a timer before the bomb goes off. So it's going to be kind of like that.
Yeah. It's a good mechanic, especially if the area is really big. Like that gives people the time to like, okay, we need to go and respond to that, figure out what we're going to do. It didn't really work that way at Silent Resolve because of a variety of reasons, but the theory is still sound. Like it's like, hey, so you now have time to go deal with that particular situation. Well, it certainly sounds like you had a successful time this time around, and I don't have any reason to think that next time will be any different. Is there anything in particular that you definitely want to do again that worked so well this time you're replicating it, you're gonna like transpose it like identical next time?
Yeah, it's giving the commanders keeping brief objectives and giving it to the commanders and letting them run with it. Keeping that role play aspect to it. I think that worked the best because it allowed people to do what they wanted to have fun. And that's what I always told people. I was like, it's create your own fun.
Yeah.
That's what it is. I'm giving you objectives to your commanders. They know what you guys need to do, but it's up to you guys whether you want to do them or how you're going to do them. Like I'm not here to force you to do them. Like it's not going to be like, hey, you need to go do this at this time. Like no, man. Like these are your objectives for the entire game, entire operation. I don't care when you complete them. You could knock out all 5 right off the bat if you were that good. It's not going to happen because you have other, opponents and other aspects of the game.
Yeah,
You're going to
they get a say too. Yeah.
Yeah, but like that is something I really want to keep is that role play aspect of here's your objectives. Go figure out how you want to accomplish them. I think
Yeah.
that was a big thing for a lot of people of how free flowing the game was, and it let it develop naturally rather than like it feeling like it was scripted.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah, and I mean, I think there's a lot to be said for that as well because I find, and I mean, you've experienced that as well, like running games in the past, and Silent Resolve is an example. When you give people the keys, the autonomy, they will sometimes surprise you, sometimes in the negative, but most of the time in the positive, right? They'll be like, "Oh, that's really clever, or that's a really interesting way of attacking that problem." And so the less you script it in some cases, the better off and the more fun it'll be and also rewarding for the individual because it's like I came up with that plan with my team leaders or whatever and we executed on it and it was successful and so we all share in that victory as opposed to oh well Chris came up with a plan and he told me to go execute on it and it's like I'm just doing what Chris told me to do, right? So it's a different vibe.
Yeah, and that's the one aspect I want to keep is I forgot to mention this is I gave a point for a picture taken with a commander that or a second in command that you hit and like with a dead rag.
Mm-hmm.
And that was just a fun thing for people to do. People would get me down, they'd run over and like even like mid game, mid firefight, they'd run over and like smile and like take a goofy picture with me because they were so happy that like it happened. And I think that was a really rewarding aspect of it was like was that and like I walked over after like the cartel tried to assassinate the governor during his speech during the elections. Like I walked over with one of their guys, like because their guys started shooting at us. I was like, "Why are you guys shooting at us?" They ended up shooting me, and they were like, "All right, let's go back to like our like, all right, you're coming with us as like the prisoner." And I was like, "Oh, really?" I went limp,
Mm-hmm.
absolutely limp, and just fell and was like, "They're like, what are you doing?" I was like, "I'm dead. I'm not going with you."
Yeah.
They four of them picked me up and carried me to their spawn, and they all loved that. They got it on video, like they had a
Awesome.
blast doing that. And I was like, that's something that's like really fun for me to like give the players of like, I want to give you this fun aspect to go do this.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, listen, thanks so much for taking the time to talk to us about Operation Villa Verde. I'm really looking forward to what you come up with, and I'm sure we'll talk about it in the lead up to the next iteration. But I'm super glad that it went well. I'm glad that you provided some really good gameplay, carrying a 200-pound man across the field, and really showing people that airsoft what airsoft can be and how it can be different and unique and still be fun and quirky, but also sort of serious and like you get really good gameplay at the same time as you're having these like awesome memories that I'm sure they're still going to be talking about in months to come, right? So, Chris, thanks so much for being on and talking to us about that. And for everyone listening, that's all we've got for you this week. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll talk to you next week. Take care.